Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L. Now let's talk Knights of Magic episode 11. So, overall, I think I like this episode more than I like the last episode. Looking at the episode's contents though, I realize a good chunk of it is just robots fighting. And so I do think that on some level, that's my bias when I'm coming into this series. It's really just the robots fighting. I really enjoy the robots fighting. But yeah, no, this episode, we continue the plot. We take down a major character for this arc, and we just see the development of a kingdom to some degree after the fights, and we end off facing off against a relatively big enemy in the Vire, I believe it was called. Overall, it's a pretty standard episode of Knights of Magic. It's the standard given what we've seen so far. There's things happening such as the time skips. We're getting a lot of time skips. Really, it's a case of they just show the most prominent moments, such as the princess getting her kingdom back, or calling it the new kingdom. They got back a capital. Just very quickly glossing over the victories that Ernesti and crew had. Really, it's just we're going through this very briskly, and now we are at a pretty big battle with Oratio. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Yeah, it's just standard Knights of Magic stuff, really. In terms of the most prominent characters of the episode, it's very barely Ernesti and then Oratio. I really do think this was much, for what little time he got, this was really Oratio's a good showcase of Oratio as a person, because on Ernesti's side we have just Ernesti's typical mecha habits popping up. We have his habits, we see it at the end, especially pronounced at the end, where Ernesti's twisting logic around that because you guys destroyed those robots, they're my robots. You know, that the Ernesti policy pretty much. Again, it's very entertaining, but man, sometimes this little boy's thing, his obsession with robots, like sometimes it's a bit concerning. And also, like earlier in the episode, Ernesti had his strong moment when he was facing off with the prince, specifically when he pointed out that he actually has control of all Silhouette Knights in his respective kingdom. So overall, you know, like just showing us this kid really likes his mecha, but really it's part of the entertaining factor for Ernesti. It's just this time it was, I really think him getting really hyped up at the end and just saying it was a joke. And you know, it is a joke for everyone else, but it's just like, man, it's the kid just doesn't give an inch. The kid doesn't want to give an inch. It's funny. It's funny. But overall, yeah, it's combat. Like, we really can't talk much about combat in general. We get to see our mecha doing incredible things. We get to see the maneuvers. But beyond that, there's nothing much really there. And when you look at the episode, a good chunk of it is devoted to that combat with the prince at the very beginning, and just Ernesti striking a fear in them. And that being, I think, yeah, like that whole segment lasts right to the middle of the episode. After there, we go into like everyone reacting to that, and then just finding out about technology. And, you know, I do think whenever we go into the technology aspect of, you know, Knights of Magic, you know, I think that is where Knights of Magic is doing its best. And so with this episode, we find out just how the other enemy kingdom is getting around and using the flying machines. I think, you know, that was pretty cool to find out. And then aside from that, we have the dramas with the princess and her establishing her kingdom, and like Kid being involved, and then like the deals and negotiations between the parties involved. Like really, there's not much depth to talk about here once we get past those first 10 minutes, because the first 10 minutes are really just combat. If anything, the real highlights from the first 10 minutes of combat, like it's cool to see javelins, anti-air measures, and it was cool to see a new mech, even though at the end of the day, they don't really have the degree of upgrades that Ernesti's mechs have. But that's to be expected after all. Like, they stole their technology from Ernesti's country. I really wonder though, like, were these guys aware of it? Because they don't really make reference to the fact that they stole these people's technology, because at this point they shouldn't be concerned, or they shouldn't be surprised that the country that they originally stole advanced technology from was capable of producing more advanced technology. You know, it's very funny. But anyway, overall, that's the episode. Just, it's very brisk. And we're going through a lot. We cover a lot of ground, and we're doing a lot of time skips. Again, the one that I do think gets the big showcase here, aside from Ernesti, is Oratio, and there is a pretty good reason for it. You know, like the episode ends off with Ernesti making the conclusion, oh yeah, if I was stealing technology, then clearly they were going to be stealing technology. But the thing with Oratio, which is way more interesting, is that Ernesti had to go and he had to get his hands on their actual technology to see how they did it. Oratio was able to mimic it just from seeing Ernesti's proof of concept. So like already that's pretty interesting, because that's establishing Oratio might have better sense than Ernesti does. And that's pretty cool. It already, like, it does kind of balance out here. Like, Ernesti's advantage is that he's coming in with technically real world logic. He's coming in with real world technology in mind. He's coming in with an understanding of different technology from another world. His common sense is different, and that we have seen in Knights of Magic. Common sense and to some degree logic are things that were like really just barring or holding back the development of the Silhouette Knights. Ernesti coming in there with a different brand of common sense and revolutionizing aesthetics for the Silhouette Knights, like that's a pretty big chunk of why he's doing so much better. But then you have Oratio, who is legitimately just aware of his own world, and so when he sees that Ernesti has that proof of concept, it's cool to see that this character doesn't need to piggyback off of any other ideas. He can go and make it himself. So like, just flat out, Oratio, his intellect is on a higher level than Ernesti, because again, Ernesti's advantage is coming that he knows technology. Oratio actually has the knowledge and the ability to make technology he's never seen work. That's a very big distinction, and that's really interesting, and already that puts Oratio above Ernesti to some degree. Of course, I do think his design of the Vire, I think that's like a bit too theatrical. Like, really, man, I know it's cool and looks like a dragon, and like some aspects of that dragon are pretty cool, like the cannon, which is made of a bunch of magic rods. But you know, at this point, the dragon form of that weapon is just, it's a stylistic choice. But I think, you know, okay, you know what? The dragon form doesn't matter. It makes a cool villain, but again, it doesn't take away. Oratio is, I absolutely believe this, a step above Ernesti by the virtue that he did not have to salvage technology to be able to copy Ernesti, and that is cool. Again, Ernesti's coming in with real world logic. The world that he came into was handicapped in that degree in order to make his logic really stand out. And Oratio is just able to figure it out after observation. It's a pretty cool thing. Again, Oratio, I really like the character. He's probably the best person we're getting out of this arc right now, because the princess is nowhere near it. Okay, no, I already talked enough about the princess. But yeah, overall, it's a pretty simple episode of Knights of Magic. When you look at it, it's kind of a setup for that last little bit. And I'm not gonna lie, like the last little bit where everyone who just won and took the fortress gets wiped out, that was unfortunate. But no one important died in that, so that's alright. It'll be pretty cool to see them combat against the dragon. I hope that everyone gets involved to some degree and it's not just Ernesti. Anyway, overall, that's my thoughts on the episode. Guys, let me know what you thought down below. Apologies for the shorter video, but there's not much else that I feel inspired to talk about for this one. But I hope you enjoyed it regardless. And if you have anything to say down below, just let me know. And thank you for everyone that answered last week. Your insight, some of you guys told me about what was going on in the light novel or web novel. I really appreciated that. Thanks a lot. But yeah, guys, what do you think about Oratio? Do you think he's a cool character? Do you think like what I just said makes sense to you? Like, let me know down below. And yeah, till next time, I hope you have a absolutely great day.